Luna was born in a quiet forest, a place where the tall trees stood like gentle giants. Their branches reached high above, forming a green canopy that sheltered everything below. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating soft spots of warmth on the ground where Luna and her siblings loved to play. The air smelled fresh and earthy, mixed with the sweet scents of wildflowers that grow in small clusters on the forest floor. Luna was a small, white kitten with bright blue eyes that sparkled with curiosity. Her fur was soft and fluffy. Every day, Luna was surrounded by the love of her family and her clanmates. Her mother was always nearby, watching over her kittens with care. Luna would often curl up against her mother's warm side, feeling her soft fur and hearing her calm, steady purr. Her mother's purr sounded like a gentle lullaby that made Luna feel safe. Her father was a strong and kind leader. His voice was gentle but full of strength, and Luna loved listening to him as he told stories of the forest. His purr was deep and comforting, making her feel as if nothing bad could ever happen when he was near. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Luna's family would gather under a large oak tree in the middle of their territory. The ground was soft with moss and fallen leaves, and there was a clear patch of sky above where the stars shone brightly. They would sit in a close circle, their tails wrapped around their paws, listening to the gentle sounds of the night, the whisper of the wind, the distant call of an owl, and the quiet rustle of leaves. Luna's mother loved to tell stories while they sat under the stars. Luna's favorite story was about the guardian cats, fierce and loyal cats who protected the forest for many generations. Her mother would lean down, touch her nose to Luna's head, and say with a proud sparkle in her eyes, "We are the guardians of these woods. As long as we are together, we are safe." Under the silver light of the moon and stars, Luna felt like she belonged to something bigger than herself. The forest was not just their home, it was their whole world. Wrapped in her family's warmth and her mother's stories, Luna truly believed that as long as they were together, nothing bad could ever happen. But one night, everything changed. Luna was fast asleep when suddenly, a loud crackling sound filled the quiet of the forest. Luna smelled smoke in the air, and her eyes opened. She saw an orange light flickering in the dark, growing brighter and hotter with each moment. Then came the cries. Cats were yelling in panic, their voices filled with fear. Soon Luna saw them, her clanmates and friends running in every direction, their eyes wide with terror. Thick smoke filled the air, stinging her nose and eyes, making it hard to breathe. Luna's chest tightened with fear, and she froze, her small body trembling. The roar of flames grew louder, closer, and hotter. Before Luna could understand what was happening, her mother was beside her, her fur warm and familiar. "Luna, run," her mother said sharply, a sound Luna had never heard from her before. Her mother nudged her to her paws, her face filled with worry and fear, her gaze never leaving Luna's. "Don't let go of me," she called over the noise of the flames. Luna stumbled, her paws barely able to move on the hot, gritty ground, but her mother kept nudging her, guiding her forward. She could feel the warmth of her mother's fur and followed it closely, trying to ignore the thick smoke that burned her throat and the loud sounds all around. All she could think about was staying close to her mother, letting her be a shield against the terrifying fire and smoke that surrounded them. As they ran, Luna saw trees catching fire, their branches glowing bright with flames. She saw other cats running, their shapes ghostly in the smoke, vanishing into the haze. The forest, their peaceful home, was being swallowed by the fire. This was the work of the enemy clan, cats who wanted their land for themselves. Luna didn't understand why anyone would want to take her home away, or why they would set such a terrible fire. Luna kept running, trusting her mother's voice to guide her. But then, out of nowhere, a wall of fire shot up between them. Bright orange flames rose high and fierce, separating Luna from her mother in an instant. Luna stopped, frozen with fear. She could see her mother on the other side, her face filled with both sadness and fear, her eyes wide as she searched for her daughter through the flames. "Luna, stay with me," her mother cried, her voice breaking as she stretched out a paw. "Don't let go." But the flames grew louder, roaring and crackling, swallowing up her mother's voice. Luna could only watch as her mother's shape faded into the thick smoke. The warmth of her mother's fur was gone, leaving Luna alone in the darkness. When the fire finally died down, silence filled the forest. The once tall trees were now blackened and bare, their branches twisted and broken. Ash covered the ground in a thick, gray blanket, and the air smelled of smoke and burning. Luna wandered through the ruins, her small, shaky voice calling out, "Mother? Father? Where are you?" But no one answered. She was alone in the empty forest. Luna didn't give up. She searched every part of the forest, following any faint scent, any sign that her family might still be there. She remembered her father's deep, comforting purr, her mother's gentle touch, and the laughter of her siblings as they chased her through the trees. Each memory felt like a warm hug, but also made her heart ache even more, reminding her of all she had lost. One day, as she walked through the burned forest, she found a small patch of ground where her mother's scent still lingered faintly. Her heart ached as she lay down in the spot, pressing her nose into the ash, trying to hold on to that last bit of scent. She closed her eyes, picturing her mother's gentle, warm eyes looking down with love. For a moment, Luna felt like she was safe again, like her mother was right there beside her. But when she opened her eyes, the patch of ground was empty and she was alone once more. As weeks passed, Luna grew thinner and weaker. Sometimes, as she wandered through the fog-covered forest, she thought she saw shadows moving in the distance. She would see a flash of her brother's striped tail flicking through the bushes or her sister's playful leap. Other times, she heard faint whispers, soft voices carried by the wind, calling her name. Each time, Luna's heart would pound with hope, and she would race after them, thinking her family had come back. But each time, the shadows and whispers vanished, leaving her feeling emptier than before. The forest, once full of life, was now silent and ghostly, a place of lonely echoes and faded memories. One evening, as she was walking through the forest, Luna spotted a shape in the distance. Her fur bristled with fear as she realized it was a cat from the enemy clan, the very cat who had set the fire that destroyed her family. She froze, unsure if she should run or hide. The cat stood still, watching her with sad, heavy eyes. Luna looked closer and saw that he wasn't angry or fierce. Instead, he looked weighed down with sadness. The enemy cat took a small step forward, his head lowered. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. "I am sorry," he said, his words filled with regret. "We wanted your land, but we never meant for this to happen." His gaze drifted over the blackened trees and the ash-covered ground, his eyes glistening with sorrow. "I didn't know it would. Take your family from you," he said, his voice breaking as he spoke. Luna felt a strange mix of anger and sadness filling her chest. She wanted to scream at him, to tell him how much she had lost, how empty the forest felt without her family. But she was too tired, too heartbroken to say anything. Her heart ached as she looked at him in silence, feeling the weight of her grief. The enemy cat seemed to understand her silence. He nodded quietly, his eyes filled with guilt, and slowly turned, disappearing into the trees, leaving Luna alone once again. As night fell, Luna looked up at the sky, where the stars were beginning to shine. She wandered to a quiet spot under a twisted, leafless tree, its black branches stretching up toward the stars like bony arms. She lay down on the cool ash, feeling its softness under her fur, and let her tired body relax. Her breaths were slow and deep, filled with the scent of smoke and memories. She closed her eyes and let her mind drift back to happier times. She could almost feel her mother's gentle touch, could almost hear her father's strong, deep purr. In her heart, she saw her siblings racing through the trees, their laughter filling the air as they tumbled and pounced, their tails flicking in joy. She imagined them all around her now, close and warm, filling the dark forest with the love and life that had once been her world. This story reminds us that greed and the desire to take what isn't ours can destroy innocent lives and leave behind pain that can't be undone. It shows how one selfish choice can lead to loss and sadness, teaching us the importance of respect, compassion, and thinking carefully about the consequences of our actions.
Rooster crowing in the morning, waking us up to study. Animals around us, oh so dear, the world is wonderful and lovely. Let's love